I knew something was wrong not because I saw anything or because someone told me, but because the silence between us started feeling louder than words. It began on a normal Tuesday. He walked in the same way he always did, but something about him didn't reach his eyes when I said hey. He answered, but his voice felt distant, and that was the first crack. When you love someone long enough, you don't need proof. You feel the shift, the way conversations become shorter, the way they stop asking about your day, because they're too busy hiding theirs. I told myself I was overthinking, that maybe he was just stressed, but deep down I knew something was slipping away, and I wasn't the one letting go. Then came the small things, the late nights, the phone, always face down, the sudden defensiveness. One day I picked up his phone just to check the time, and he grabbed it back like I crossed a line that wasn't him, or maybe it always was. And I just never saw it. That moment stayed with me, not because of what he said, but how he said it, cold and distant. And that's when the questions started. Who was he texting? Why was he hiding? And why did I feel like a stranger in my own relationship? A week later, everything changed. He forgot his jacket, and when I picked it up, a receipt fell out, a restaurant bill for 2 meals, 2 drinks, and a dessert, dated the same night. He told me he was working late. My hands started shaking. I tried to explain it away. Maybe it was a work dinner. But at the bottom it said table for 2, and that's when the silence inside me broke. I didn't confront him right away, because once you say it out loud, there's no going back. That night, I acted normal. I smiled, I talked, I laughed, and he played along perfectly. And that hurt the most, how easily he lied later. When he fell asleep, I stayed awake, watching him, and then I made a decision. I picked up his phone. My heart was racing. I unlocked it with his birthday, and everything changed. The messages were there, her name at the top, conversations that weren't meant for me, plans, jokes, things he used to share with me, now given to someone else. I scrolled slowly. Every word felt heavier than the last. I miss you tonight was perfect. She has no idea. That line stopped me completely, because this wasn't a mistake, it was betrayal, planned, repeated, hidden. I didn't cry at first. I just sat there empty, like everything inside me had gone quiet. And then it hit. All at once, the memories, the trust, the years, everything reduced to lies on a screen. I covered my mouth so he wouldn't hear me break. But even in that moment, something shifted. I wasn't just hurt, I was awake, and once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. The next morning, I smiled, not because I was okay, but because I had a plan. I wasn't going to scream or beg or confront him, not yet, because he did deserve a reaction. He deserved a revelation. From that day on, I watched him closely, every move, every excuse, every lie. I became calm, supportive, unbothered, and that confused him, because people like him expect reactions, not silence, and calm makes them careless. I learned her name, I saw her photos, her messages, and then I found the line that confirmed everything. She's starting to suspect. He knew I felt something was wrong, and instead of stopping, he just got more careful. That's when I realized this wasn't just betrayal, it was disrespect. And that changes everything. That night, I cooked his favorite meal, and he smiled like nothing was wrong. And I played along, because the more comfortable he felt, the easier it would be to expose the truth. I started collecting everything, screenshots, messages, dates, times, not out of obsession, but precision. I didn't want a private argument. I wanted impact. I wanted the truth to come out in a way he couldn't escape. Then he made a mistake. He said he would be late again, but I had already seen the message. He wasn't working, he was meeting her. That's when the pain started fading and control took its place. I wasn't reacting anymore, I was predicting. And when you can predict someone, you can outplay them. That evening, I texted him asking if I should bring him dinner at work. There was a pause, and then he said no, they were ordering, and that was all the proof I needed. Every lie he told was another step closer to his own downfall. A week ago, I was heartbroken. But now I was clear, because when you stop loving blindly, you start seeing everything, and what I saw was someone who thought he was in control, someone who believed he could lie without consequences. But his world was already falling apart. He just didn't see it yet. Then the opportunity came. He said his friends were coming over for a small get-together. And that's when I knew this was it, the perfect moment, the perfect audience. He thought it would be a normal night, but it was going to be the night everything ended. The day arrived, and I prepared everything carefully, because the more normal it looked, the harder the truth would hit. The house filled with laughter and music, and I watched him play the perfect boyfriend like nothing was wrong. and then the doorbell rang. He opened it, and there she was. His face changed instantly, shock, confusion, fear. And before he could say anything, I stepped forward and welcomed her inside. The room shifted, the energy changed, and he tried to pull me aside, but I told him later because later was coming, and there was nothing he could do about it. Then I stood in the center of the room and asked for everyone's attention. I thanked them for coming and said tonight was a moment of truth. The air changed completely. I held up my phone and showed the messages, and the silence that followed was heavy. He tried to deny it, but there was no explanation left. I looked at her and asked if she knew, and she said no. He told her he was single, and that confirmed everything. The room reacted immediately, questions, shock, disbelief. And he couldn't escape because this time there was no private space, no quiet lies, just truth in front of everyone. He asked to talk alone, but I refused because he didn't lie alone. I told him he didn't just break trust, he made me question my reality. And the worst part was he thought I would never find out, but I did, and now so did everyone else. I didn't wait for a response. I said I'm done and walked away. No shouting, no crying, just finality. Outside, the silence felt different, lighter, but also empty because endings leave space, and in that space, emotions catch up. He followed me outside, asking me to listen, saying it wasn't what I thought, but he couldn't explain, because the truth doesn't need time, only lies do. He said he didn't mean for it to go this far, that he was confused, that he didn't want to hurt me. And I asked him what he thought he had done, because the damage was already there. I told him he created a second life and made me feel like I was imagining things. He said he could fix it, asked for another chance. But I told him he wasn't asking for a chance, he was asking for escape. He was sorry because he got caught, not because he cared. I told him I loved him honestly, completely. And that's why it ended, because I deserved someone who didn't make me question, that I wasn't angry anymore. And that's what mattered, because anger means you still care, and I didn't. I told him he didn't get access to me anymore. No calls, no messages, no explanations. This was the consequence, not the embarrassment inside, but me walking away for good. And that's when he realized it wasn't during the exposure, but in the quiet, that he lost something real. I looked at him one last time and said, this is who you chose to be, and this is what it cost you then. I walked away and didn't look back. The next morning felt quiet, but peaceful. Something heavy was gone. I looked at myself in the mirror and realized healing doesn't start with forgetting someone else. It starts with remembering yourself. I blocked him, deleted everything, not out of anger, but respect for myself. Because closure is something you take, not something they give a few days later. He tried to reach out again, saying he was sorry, that he missed me, but I didn't reply, because some apologies don't deserve access. Days turned into weeks, and I started rebuilding, not my life, but myself. I returned to the things I loved, the things I forgot while trying to hold on to someone else. And slowly, I felt stronger, not to prove anything to him, but to reconnect with me. And then it hit me, he didn't break me. He revealed me. He showed me what I tolerate, what I ignore, and what I will never accept again. I stopped seeing it as loss and started seeing it as clarity, because if I never found out, I would have built a future on something that wasn't real. I didn't lose him, I escaped him. And that changed everything. Weeks later, I realized I wasn't checking my phone anymore. I wasn't replaying memories. I was just living, because once you go through something like that and come out stronger, you don't just heal, you evolve. And people like him no longer have access to this version of you. If there's one thing I learned, it's to trust your instincts, because the moment something feels off, it usually is. Never beg someone to stay, because if they can lie to you, they can leave you. And if they can leave you, let them. Because the right person won't make you question your worth. Looking back now, that night didn't ruin my life, it redirected it. It removed what didn't belong and made space for something real. And maybe that's what revenge really is, not exposing someone, not watching them fall, but rising so high that what they did no longer matters. He broke my trust, but in doing so, he revealed a truth I'll never forget. I was never losing him, I was finally finding myself.